Hey everybody, Lee from PcjunkieMods. Hey everybody, Lee from PcjunkieMods.
Hey everyone, Christianson from Blue Horse Studios.
So today we're gonna start a new video series. We've been contracted to do a cool mod for CES for Intel, so most likely you're not going to see these videos until after CES because unfortunately we've been holding back all these photos and all this video until after CES. So let's go ahead and jump right in and show you what we're doing. So I was contracted to do this build for Intel. They had told me that they wanted it based off of Overwatch, the new game that's coming out from Blizzard in a couple months. Right away I thought of Ron because he's super creative. I can do a super clean build, but you know, sculpt a person or anything like that, there's no way I can do it. You guys have probably seen his alien mod and even like the biohazard using the polystyrene and stuff. So we got together, we started talking about the build, and we need a concept.
At that time, we're thinking more of doing something with a case. I think we were looking at the Cooler Master Case 5, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
And that's where the original concepts started getting drawn up. And the more that I put it together, I realized that I didn't think a case would work. I think a scratch build at that point was the way to go. That's when I started throwing at you. You kept saying, no. I think I probably hit you up about 14-15 times about it.
Yeah, and right away I thought, you know, that we don't have the time for it because literally we had to pull this together in 3 weeks. So I mean, I understood your selling point on it, but I was looking at logistically the time frame. You know, last scratch build I did was like 500 hours. You know? So, yeah. But finally I caved and we decided to go with the scratch build, but on the contingencies that we used a test bench to cut down on some of the manufacturing time for the you know, the motherboard tray and stuff like that. So we ended up using, I had a Demus Tech test bench, and this simplifies it for us because we were able to mount the power, all the hardware on it, minus the reservoir, the radiators, and the pump. So I mean, it worked out, you know, and Ron had this vision.
Well, when we first started with the concept of using a case, I was just thinking about it just wouldn't be proportioned. So I figured if we could come up with some sort of scratch build where we just built him from the bust up and use his jetpack as a way to mount the motherboard. So that's when you came up with the idea of using the test bench, and we just kind of incorporated the test bench into his backpack area. And the way that I thought about incorporating the whole build or the whole bust of Winston into this project was to make him crawling out of an airlock. And the platform was going to be quite large. I think it was like a 3x3 platform for the entire PC. And once we finally got the final design figured out, that's when we started breaking out the aluminum. And
that's where I come in handy.
Yeah.
You know, I've done a little bit of aluminum brazing and stuff like that. So basically the idea was to build up a frame for his body for Ron to be able to build off of. You were planning on doing what, polystyrene ribbed like look to be able to build off of that.
Right, but we kind of ran out of time due to other things. So then that's when we decided to use foam as the base, which actually worked out well with the fiberglass.
So basically, once we had our design and idea down, we at that point I started to braze the aluminum, put it together, create some kind of basic framework that would also not just be Winston, but hold up the test bench because the test bench is going to be at an angle. So we did the fiberglass, and that didn't take too long for the first try. Could have been better, you know, obviously, but I think the more we play around with fiberglass, just like anything, it'll get better and better. Once we finished that, this whole time, Ron was in the background working on the head of Winston.
Yeah, the clay sculpt was actually pretty simple, but just to back up a bit, to get Winston's shoulders and his chest plate and all that stuff welded on, get him anatomically correct, was a little tricky at first to get that figured out to where his shoulders were in the right proportion to his head and his body width and stuff. So, but yeah, we started molding the head or sculpting the head. I just used some wet clay that you can pick up at any hobby supply store. And just started sculpting the head, rough sculpting the head, and just detailing out with different stylus tools that you can pick up in an art supply store as well. And yeah, it took I don't know,
A couple days.
Yeah, a couple days to sculpt it. Yeah, and then we moved on to the hands, and I think we picked up a couple little acrylic balls for the eyes that we'd cast the eyes with.
Yeah, tap plastics, huh?
Yeah.
We tried to find marbles, that didn't work out.
Yeah, actually those balls actually worked out best.
Yeah.
So once the head was finished sculpting, we decided that we were going to use an RTV silicone cast. And then we poured our RTV silicone. I think it was about 3.5 quarts that we needed. As you can see in the video, we didn't pour enough on the first pour, so we had to mix up some really quick.
Or the second pour.
Yeah, or the second
or
pour.
the third pour.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to actually, when you're doing this stuff, you actually want to pour this all in one pour because you can really get bubbles and it can destroy your mold. So, fortunately, we didn't have any bubbles in our mold, and it worked out really well. So, we just cast this in one block mold, and then cut the mold and then pulled the clay sculpt out. Unfortunately, we weren't able to save the clay sculpt. It broke apart when we were during the demold process,
because of the open mouth.
Yeah,
I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, if you can save it, great, but most of the time you can't. But we had a great cast though. After we cleaned the mold out, we casted four heads first, five heads before we got a perfect cast, and that's normal,
I think by the third one, the first one was remember the nose structure was messed up a little bit.
Yeah, we demolded that too soon.
Yeah, and by the third one you had a really, really good cast, and you had said something about the more you do, the better it gets. And I was kind of skeptical. I thought the first one would be the best.
Yeah, it's basically what they call conditioning the mold. As you cast more, the better it turns out. So it removes any debris that's inside the mold, any clay leftovers or whatever. Yeah, so after we demolded the head, we applied a primer, of course, and then started going into painting the head. I just airbrushed out the base layers, laying in some shadow color into the eyes and the mouth, and just in the deep areas. And then I went in and I brushed in some of the other details. I like to go between airbrush and hand painting just because I like the different textures. I don't like to just airbrush everything. The teeth are all hand painted, the eyes were hand painted, his hair and his crown were hand painted, but most of the skin texture was all airbrushed. So for the teeth and the tongue, those were created separately. I used Super Sculpty modeling clay to sculpt the teeth and the tongue, and we just baked those in the oven for about 2 hours, and then came in and applied those separately, just epoxied those in and then painted those in. And then the glasses, we just used some polystyrene, some thin polystyrene, I think 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch polystyrene.
It was super thin.
And just cut those out of styrene, then just used some clear plastic for the lenses, and those worked out well too. It turned out really well.
Just a wrapper. It was like a wrapper for my screws or something.
But it worked out for the lenses and the glasses, and that basically completed the head. And then we did several casts of those to pass around to the other team members here at PcjunkieMods. I think everybody got one.
And Dave from Mainframe.
Dave, Dwight, you, myself.
And Dwight's buddy.
Yeah,
one of the reasons we did the tongue and teeth separately is because Ron was telling me that if those intricate pieces, when you cast that, it'll lock the mold. You won't be able to get it apart. So you want to pull, his mouth is open, so that's already a big crevice in there. And if you have the tongue and teeth in there, then you're not going to be able to get it out. And it'll destroy the mold. So.
Yeah, basically what happens is the silicone works itself behind the tongue and makes it actually one piece to where you'll have to get in and cut that portion of the mold out to save the mold. But so that's why we made those pieces separately to prevent the locking of the mold and destroying all the silicone that we poured. which is quite expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. $150 of whack, right?
Yeah.
We had a little issue, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about that some other time.